It started with a pharmacy email. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic. Just a quiet little ping late Friday afternoon from Greenstone Pharmacy. Something about rewards points. Harmless stuff. Lena and I got those emails all the time. But this one felt different. The day had been ordinary. I got home, dropped my work bag by the door, kicked off my shoes, and wandered into the kitchen. The house was too quiet. Lena usually had some mellow indie playlist going while she cooked, or left her yoga gear scattered across the couch. But today, everything was perfectly placed. Too perfect. I opened my laptop just to clear a few tabs, and there it was. Greenstone Rewards, new transaction summary. I clicked. The first thing I noticed was the date, 2 days ago. The second, the location, a Greenstone branch across town, nowhere near Lena's usual routes. And then the prescription name hit me. Femora. I frowned. I'd never heard of it before. And Lena? She never said anything about picking up a prescription. So I Googled it. Just curious. And what I found made my stomach drop. A hormonal regulator. Usually prescribed post-trauma or after unplanned intimacy. Not intended for long-term use. Typically dispensed discreetly. My chest didn't tighten. It emptied. I tried not to jump to conclusions. Lena worked in holistic wellness. Reiki, body energy work, yoga, all that. Maybe this was part of some treatment I didn't understand. But Lena was careful. About everything. Especially her health. That night, she came home later than usual. Said a client's energy session had run long. Kissed my cheek, headed straight for the bathroom. The shower came on within seconds. Her keys made that soft ceramic clink in the bowl by the counter, the sound that used to calm me. Now it echoed like a warning bell. I sat at the dining table, eyes on her gym bag near the door. The words hormonal regulator wouldn't leave my head. That wasn't something you forget to mention. The next morning, I pulled up our joint Greenstone account on my phone. Same date, same med. But now I saw something else, the prescribing clinic. Crescent Valley Therapy Center. On Everpine Avenue. A tiny street tucked between an old daycare and a closed-down bookstore. Residential. Quiet. That name, it felt familiar, but I couldn't place it. Later that day, while we cleared dinner plates, I said it casually. Hey, did you switch pharmacies? Got an email about Greenstone. It's kind of far from your usual spot. She didn't flinch. Didn't hesitate. Just smiled. Oh yeah. I stopped there on the way to Tranquil Path. Our old place takes forever now. She laughed it off. Changed the subject. But I saw it. That split-second delay in her eyes. Lena had a voice that could sell stillness to a storm. Years of guiding meditations had made it soothing, assured. But I knew her real voice. And that voice didn't dodge direct questions. She fell asleep quickly that night. Deep, even breaths. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was unsettled. Sometimes it's not a fight, or a confession, or even a lie that shifts your world. Sometimes it's something tiny, like an email. That was my doorway. And on the other side, a truth I wasn't ready to face. But I couldn't ignore it anymore. On Monday, she left around 5:10 p.m., said she had a realignment session with a new client at the meditation studio inside Tranquil Path Wellness. She came back a little before 8, smiling, calm, her hair damp like always. Powerful evening, she said, setting her gym bag by the couch. One of my students released a lot of stored emotion. Deep stuff. I'm glad, I told her. You wouldn't believe the kind of pain people carry, she added, opening the fridge. It hides in the hips, the back, even the hands. That was her teaching voice, the one she used when she wanted to sound wise. But this was different. Like she was performing it for someone who already stopped listening. I was listening now. Thursday followed the same script. Out by 5:15. Back by 8 o'clock. Gym bag. Damp hair. Another vague story about chakra release. That's when I started tracking it. Not obsessively. Just patterns. Times. Routes. Excuses. A spreadsheet on my phone, password protected. Every Monday and Thursday. Same times. Same story. Too precise. I thought about confronting her again. But something told me, if she was lying, she'd double down. I'd be handing her a new narrative. I didn't need guesses. I needed proof. So Friday afternoon, I did something I never thought I'd do. I bought a GPS tracker. Small. Legal. Magnetic. Took me 5 minutes to attach it beneath her rear bumper. Tested it the next morning. It worked flawlessly. I told myself this wasn't betrayal. I wasn't invading her privacy. I was defending my reality. Monday came. She left at the same time. Told me she had a deep energy calibration with a first-time client. The tracker told a different story. At 5:36 p.m., her car pulled into a house on Everpine Avenue. Same address listed on the FEMRA prescription. Same quiet block with trimmed lawns and a modest white house at the end. On the gate, Crescent Valley Therapy Center, by appointment only. She stayed for 2 hours and 7 minutes. When she returned, everything was normal. Offered me chamomile tea. Talked about adding craniosacral therapy to her next workshop. I smiled, nodded, said that sounded interesting, and stared at the steam rising from my cup, wondering how many layers I still had to peel back. That night, I didn't sleep, just listened to the soft rhythm of her breathing beside me. It used to calm me. Now it felt distant. That Thursday, I left work early, told my team I had a dental appointment, packed a thermos of coffee, my phone, and a small notebook. At 5:17 p.m. she left, leggings, hoodie, gym bag over her shoulder. No goodbye kiss this time. Just a shout from the hall. Don't forget to water the plants. I waited. Then I drove a different route, took a long loop through unfamiliar neighborhoods. I knew where she'd be. Crescent Valley Therapy Center sat at the end of a cul-de-sac behind a senior living center. White siding, clean yard, plain mailbox. Nothing said clinic. No waiting room. No cars. Just stillness. I parked 3 houses down. Waited. At 5:41, her car turned the corner. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I felt nothing. Just quiet. She pulled into the driveway. Paused. Then the garage door opened. Slow. Calm. She drove in. And vanished. I thought about the last time we went to the beach. How she rested her head on my shoulder and said the ocean made her feel like herself again. I wondered if she remembered. Probably not. At 7:48, the garage opened again. She pulled out slowly. But she didn't leave right away. Then I saw him. Side door opened. Athletic. Confident. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Black t-shirt, fitted khakis. Looked like he'd just finished a home workout. He walked straight to the driver's window. No hesitation. Lena rolled it down. They talked for a few seconds. I couldn't hear them, but I saw her laugh. That laugh. The one I hadn't heard in months. Then he leaned in and kissed her. Not a goodbye kiss. Not a hesitant peck. It was long, familiar, rehearsed. I had already hit record on my phone before he stepped outside. I caught all of it. The kiss. The way he touched her cheek. The way she looked at him when he stepped back. Glowing. Like a woman in love. She drove off. Didn't look back. I sat there, phone in hand, unsure if what I felt was relief. Or just broken. It wasn't the kiss that hurt the most. It was her happiness. Like she'd finally become who she really was. Just not with me. When I got home, she was already in the kitchen. She blamed the traffic, construction on the freeway near Tranquil Path. I didn't argue. She talked about some new herbal massage technique her therapist was experimenting with. Something about releasing nervous energy stored in the spine. Said she might incorporate it in her next weekend workshop. I nodded. Sounds intense, I said. She didn't notice my tone. That night, she fell asleep quickly again. And I stayed up. In my office. Dim light. Quiet air. I watched the video again. Paused it at the moment he touched her cheek. Zoomed in. Captured the license plate. Saved the file into a new folder I hadn't created until that night. Truth/Crescent Valley, 11M42S.mp4. Now it was real. No guesses. No hoping she'd come clean. She already had, just not with words. With her silence. With her smile. With that kiss outside another man's home. The night after, I didn't sleep, not out of pain or even confusion, but because I could see clearly for the first time in weeks. Lena wasn't just lying. She was performing. Every soft smile, every "you're the best," thrown from the hallway before her shower. It was part of a stage act. And now that I'd seen behind the curtain, I couldn't unsee it. So I started documenting everything. A new notebook. First page dated. Friday, 5:49 a.m. Title on top. Crescent Records. Observations and Confirmations. I wrote down every visit to Everpine Avenue. Dates. Departure and return times. Duration. Excuses given. Visual confirmation, GPS, video. I cross-referenced it with her Greenstone Pharmacy history. With her personal calendar, private recovery client, energy realignment. Always on Mondays and Thursdays. Her lies now lived in neat rows and columns. And that made them easier to carry. Saturday morning, I logged into our shared health insurance portal. Not invasive, we both had access. Filtered the past 2 months. There they were. Crescent Valley Therapy Center, code 923H. Private musculoskeletal treatment. Mondays and Thursdays. Always out of network. Cash payments. No physician referral. No clinical notes. Just clean, quiet entries. Routine. And completely off the record. I kept digging. Months ago, Lena had left her iCloud account open on our shared home computer. She didn't think I ever used it. She was right, until now. Her messages were smart. Nothing direct. No smoking gun. But patterns are hard to disguise, no matter how careful the words. Still Thursday. Thanks again. Still feel that pressure point trick working. Seriously, magic hands. I'm walking better already. One name popped up again and again. Nathan C. Dr. Nathan Cole. And then I remembered. Months ago, Lena had left her retreat planner open on the kitchen counter. I'd seen little hearts drawn beside a name. Nathan, 1:1 recovery, 90 minutes. I thought it was for a client. I knew better now. That night we had dinner together. She asked about my day. Said hers was transformational. Talked about helping someone release emotional trauma stored in the hips. I nodded. Glad to hear it. Then asked, "What's Nathan like?" She blinked. Then smiled. Warm, but slow. "Just a colleague," she said. "Why?" I shrugged. "You mention him sometimes." She changed the subject quickly. I didn't press. I didn't need to. I had what I needed. But I wasn't done. The next day, I made a call. To someone who owed me a favor. An old college friend, now working at the Northwood Health Commission, in licensing. I started vague. Then got to the point. Off the record. What happens if a licensed therapist crosses personal lines with a client? A pause. Then, if it's proven, it's serious. Could mean suspension. Even revocation. Depends on the evidence. What counts as evidence? Photos. Messages. Inconsistent records. Anything that shows misconduct disguised as therapy, especially if there's anything physical. Romantic. I thanked him. Spent the rest of the day organizing files. Screenshots. Calendar overlaps. Clinical codes. GPS logs. Message chains. Backed everything up on a flash drive and private cloud. I wasn't acting from revenge. I was preparing. Because people like Nathan and Lena don't stop until something forces them to. Not guilt. Not truth. It was almost too easy in the end. After weeks of doubt, spreadsheets, second-guessing every look and word, the next step was just a quiet little button in the top right corner of the screen. Submit report. No theatrics. No second-guessing. Just one more moment of silence before everything changed. I submitted the complaint on a Tuesday morning. That day, Lena left early. Said she was going to a sound bowl healing session with a client from a trauma recovery circle. I waited until the door shut behind her. Then I opened the folder. Every file had already been named, sorted, time-stamped. No more edits. No more hesitation. This wasn't revenge. I reminded myself of that again and again. It was responsibility. I uploaded the following into the secure portal for the Northwood Health Commission Division of Ethics. Timeline of Lena's visits to Crescent Valley Therapy Center, cross-referenced with GPS logs. Screenshots of messages between Lena and Dr. Nathan Cole. Records of prescription activity for Femora. A still photo of their kiss outside his house. Billing receipts from 6 weeks of unverified private sessions. A short note. All entries confirmed through shared account access and personal observation. No names were included other than those under scrutiny. The form allowed for anonymous reports. So I remained anonymous. They didn't need to know who I was. The evidence spoke loud enough. Once everything uploaded, I printed a hard copy. Sealed it inside a plain manila envelope. Addressed it to Northwood Health Commission, Ethics Review Division. Confidential, Ethics Violation Dossier. Certified mail. No return address. Then I waited. That evening, Lena came home late. Said there'd been an energy block in one of her students. Something she had to help dislodge through guided bodywork. She kissed my cheek, asked if I wanted some fruit. I told her I wasn't hungry. Rough day, she asked. Just tired, I replied. She nodded, humming to herself while she rinsed blueberries. As if nothing were crumbling underneath her feet. As if we were still what we used to be. 2 days later, I received an email. Subject, preliminary review, N/report received. Short, professional, cold. We have received your submission and initiated a preliminary investigation into Dr. Nathan Cole. All private client sessions have been suspended pending further review. I exhaled slow, printed the email, and filed it in my private folder under a new title. Stage 1, acknowledged. That night, Lena and I hosted a casual fire pit gathering with some of her friends. A few candles, soft music, wine flowing freely. She wore a sundress she hadn't worn in months. Said she was trying to reconnect with light energy again. Everyone commented on how radiant she looked. "You're glowing lately," one of them said. Lena smiled, sipping rose. "I've been doing a lot of deep personal energy work," she said, eyes distant. "Nathan's been revealing." I nearly laughed. None of them knew what was already unfolding. That beneath the surface of her perfect glow, something had begun to crack. Quietly, that weekend, she mentioned something strange while brushing her hair in front of the mirror. "Nathan moved my session," she said. "Something with his schedule." I raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay?" "Probably." Said it's just some admin stuff at the clinic. "Maybe paperwork." I nodded. Even healers can't dodge bureaucracy forever. She didn't react, just kept brushing her hair. That night, I checked Nathan Cole's professional website. It was still up, but his calendar? Empty. No appointments. No contact forms. The cracks were showing. The silence was doing its job, and I didn't feel victorious. Just still. Thursday night came without noise, like all the others, but this time felt different. There was no more chatter in my mind. No spinning thoughts. Just silence, the kind that arrives when a decision is made. At 5:16 p.m., she left. Same leggings. Same hoodie. Same lie. "Don't wait up," she said with a smile. "Might run long tonight. Lot of energy in the air." "Take your time," I replied. She didn't notice my tone. I waited 10 minutes, then walked to my office, pulled open the bottom drawer, took out a folder, thin, unmarked, but heavy with truth. Inside, a printed copy of the complaint, message screenshots, GPS timestamps, billing codes from the therapy center, photos, the gate, the kiss, his hand on her cheek, a flash drive with the full video. I placed the folder gently on her side of the dining table. Then I started making dinner. Grilled vegetables, lemon herb salmon, one candle lit between us. At 7:41 p.m., I heard the garage door open. I didn't look up right away, just stirred the rice. "It smells amazing," she called from the hallway as she dropped her keys into the ceramic bowl. "I felt like cooking something real tonight," I said calmly. She smiled, pulled off her shoes, and walked in humming. "You're spoiling me." "Maybe." She sat down, placed her napkin on her lap, picked up her fork, and saw it. The folder. "What's this?" she asked, fingertips grazing the edge. "Open it." She hesitated. Then she did. Her smile didn't vanish right away. Not until the second page. Then her breath changed. Her hand stopped moving. She turned another page. And another. Each one slower than the last. By the time she reached the photo, the one with his hand on her cheek, she stopped. She closed the folder gently. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. "I saw everything," I said quietly. "The tracker, the clinic, the driveway." She opened her mouth. I raised my hand. No speeches. No stories. Her voice cracked. "I didn't want it to happen this way." I smiled without my eyes. "No, you didn't want to get caught." She looked down. "What now? You're going to destroy me." I shook my head. "You already did that." Silence. "Did you report it?" she asked, barely audible. "Yes." Her eyes filled. "You should have come to me first." "I did," I said. "For weeks. You lied. So I went to someone who listens." She stood suddenly. "It's my career. You've ruined my name." "No," I said calmly. "You ruined your name when you turned your license into a costume." She grabbed her bag. "You don't get to decide how this ends." I leaned back in my chair, steady as stone. "I already have." And she knew it. She left without saying another word. The door didn't slam. No dramatic goodbye. Just the weight of everything she hadn't said. I cleared the table, put the salmon in the fridge, blew out the candle. Then I sat in the living room and let the silence spread through the house like clean air after a storm. For the first time in weeks, it didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like clarity. She left before sunrise. No apology. No note. Just the soft click of the door around 3 a.m. And the hush that followed. I didn't follow her. I didn't call. The next morning, I opened the curtains in the front room and noticed a small gap in the closet. Her favorite jacket was gone. So were her sandals. A few pieces of clothing. Her toothbrush. The essential oils. She didn't say goodbye, but I knew she wasn't coming back. I made coffee and checked the mail. A large envelope was waiting for me. I already knew what it was. Return address. Northwood Health Commission, Disciplinary Review Board. I sat down, opened it slowly, and read the first page. Subject, escalated ethics violation, Dr. Nathan Cole. Status, license suspended pending formal hearing. Terms, immediate halt to all private practice sessions. Notification of all current and former clients. Mandatory disciplinary hearing within 30 days. Risk of full license revocation and possible criminal referral if misconduct is confirmed. I folded the letter and placed it in the same box where I'd kept everything else: photos, documents, recordings. I didn't need to read it again. I just needed to remember it was real. A few nights later, we had a small fire in the backyard. Lena was gone, but her absence wasn't heavy anymore. It was clean. Final. Someone asked if I'd heard what happened at Crescent Valley. Something about the therapist being suspended, they said. People are saying weird things. I nodded. That place always seemed off. They agreed. No one mentioned Lena by name. But whispers have a way of moving through walls. And they were already spreading. The fallout didn't come in explosions. It came in waves. Quiet ones. First, a message from Sophie, one of Lena's students. Hey, is everything okay with Lena? My private session with Dr. Cole was suddenly canceled. Weird energy lately. Just wondering. Then Derek, an old friend whose wife attended Lena's weekend retreats. You two good? Heard some strange stuff. Something about her therapist being suspended. I didn't explain. I didn't have to. The silence was already telling the story. Days later, someone sent me a link to a wellness forum. A thread titled, "Why did Crescent Valley cancel all private appointments?" And a comment. I heard it was an ethics thing. Someone reported him for inappropriate conduct. Then came the photo. A flyer from an old retreat. Lena and Nathan, side by side. Smiling. Arms lightly touching. Another comment. They always seemed a little too close. The next time I checked the Tranquil Path Wellness Studio website, Lena's profile was gone. No mention of her upcoming classes. Her bio, erased from the team page. No public statement. No farewell post. Just deleted. People noticed. And Lena felt it. That weekend, I got a message from her sister. She's staying with a friend. Things are rough. She's not talking much. Thought you should know. I didn't reply. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Nathan began to disappear, too. His once active profile fell silent. No updates. No sessions. His wellness blog? Wiped clean. Client testimonials, gone. One former client posted anonymously. I always felt something was off. I'm glad someone finally said something. I didn't respond. There was no need. The silence was doing the work. Lena didn't message me for almost 2 weeks. And then, she did. One sentence. I know you think you did the right thing. But this went too far. No apology. No ownership. Just quiet blame. I read it once. Then archived it. That same day, a friend sent me a photo. A new flyer for a spring wellness retreat. Same dates. Same agenda. Different instructor. Lena had been replaced without a word. That night, I sat alone in the living room. The windows open. The lights low. For the first time in months, there was peace in the house. No trail of lavender oils down the hallway. No carefully curated affirmations taped to the fridge. No more "I'll be late" texts that meant something else. Just air. Still. Honest. The silence she thought would protect her had turned on her, and I never had to raise my voice to make it happen. A week passed. Then another. The house didn't feel empty. It felt clean. Balanced. The kind of quiet that doesn't beg for attention. It just is. I repainted the hallway. Rearranged the living room. Packed away a few things that no longer meant anything. I kept the photos, not for nostalgia, but as reminders. The past doesn't need to be burned. It just needs to be filed away. I saw Lena one more time. By accident. At the grocery store. Early afternoon. I turned a corner with a bag of coffee beans, and there she was. Standing alone in the tea aisle. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Oversized sweatshirt. She looked smaller. She saw me. And froze. For a second, I thought she might walk toward me. She didn't. She turned her cart around. And left the aisle. Just like that. No spark. No pain. No words. Just stillness. Later that evening, her sister texted again. She's thinking about leaving town. Says she needs a fresh start. I don't think she knows how to explain any of it. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to explain. Some truths don't need to be spoken to be understood. The damage was done. The healing? That wasn't my responsibility anymore. A few nights later, I opened the folder one last time. Not to relive it, to release it. I deleted the digital backups, shut down the cloud drive, took the printed documents, the USB, the letters, everything, and stored it in a box at the back of the hallway closet. Out of sight, not out of memory, just out of reach. The truth had already done its job. I didn't need to carry it anymore. A week later, I was sitting on the back porch with a cup of coffee, watching the sun rise over the rooftops. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something. Not an apology, not an explanation, not her return. I had made peace with what I knew. Lena had made her choices. Nathan had paid the price. And me? I hadn't lost myself. I'd found him again, beneath all the silence. Not the man I used to be. Someone quieter. Someone stronger. Someone wiser. Someone finally ready to let go. Not for forgiveness, but for freedom. A few days later, the letter came. Heavy envelope. Same return address. Northwood Health Commission. I opened it slowly, with no rush. I already knew what it would say. Final review decision, Dr. Nathan Cole. License status, revoked. Following a formal investigation, the board has determined that Dr. Nathan Cole engaged in repeated violations of professional and ethical conduct. His misuse of therapeutic authority for personal gain constitutes a breach of client trust and a misuse of licensed credentials. Effective immediately. Full revocation of license for a minimum of 5 years. Ineligibility to practice under any wellness or rehabilitation license in the state. Right to appeal denied due to the nature of the evidence presented. I folded the letter and placed it into the archive box, next to everything else I no longer needed to keep close. Not because I wanted to revisit it, but because I needed to remember. It mattered. A week later, a tiny blurb appeared in the local paper. Not a headline, just a quiet paragraph on the second page. Therapist loses license after ethics review. Northwood Health Commission confirms disciplinary action against Dr. Nathan Cole following reports of inappropriate behavior during private client sessions. No other names. But this town knew how to read between the lines. He vanished from search engines. His website taken down. His social media scrubbed. The last client review said, "Boundaries matter." I'm glad someone remembered that. And Lena? She faded just as quietly. One day, her name was still on archived flyers. The next, it wasn't. No goodbye, no farewell post. Just erased. No one asked where she'd gone. No one tagged her in goodbye comments. They just moved on. Without her. That night, I sat on the porch again. Tea in hand. Spring air warm against my skin. I looked up at the stars. And I didn't feel bitter. I felt clear. I didn't celebrate what happened. But I was glad I saw it for what it was. Because for far too long, I had lived beneath a soft lie, convincing myself it was just stress, just distance, just a phase. But it wasn't. It was betrayal. It was choice. And now, it was consequence. Not because I yelled, not because I begged, but because I stayed silent long enough for the truth to do what it always does. Break what was never meant to hold. The curious thing about endings? They're never like in the movies. No yelling, no slammed doors, just the slow unraveling. They slip in through the cracks, almost unnoticed. Until one morning, you realize the silence hasn't left. It's moved in. A month passed. The house stopped whispering memories. It didn't feel haunted. It felt aired out. Like something heavy had been lifted and taken away in the middle of the night, without a sound. I reorganized the furniture. Gave the hallway a second coat of paint. Packed away things that no longer held meaning. I didn't throw away the photos. Not out of nostalgia, but out of respect for time. The past doesn't need fire. It just needs a drawer. Then one day I saw her. By accident. Supermarket. Late afternoon. I rounded an aisle with a carton of oat milk, and there she was. Standing in front of the herbal teas. Staring at nothing. Hair tied back. No makeup. Oversized hoodie. Eyes dull. She looked tired. Smaller than I remembered. She saw me. And froze. I paused too. For a moment, I thought she might walk toward me. But she didn't. She turned her cart around and disappeared down another aisle. No smile. No wave. Just gone. And I felt nothing. No spike of heartache. No anger. No satisfaction. Just stillness. Later that evening, her sister texted again. She's thinking about leaving town. Says she needs a clean break. Doesn't know how to explain it all. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to explain. Some truths don't need to be spoken to be understood. The damage had been done. The healing? That was no longer mine to offer. And she knew it. The days grew longer. Lighter. I started spending more time in the yard. Got back into running. Called friends I hadn't seen in months. Not to talk about her. Just to live again. The weight that had lived in my chest for so long? Gone. Not because it disappeared, but because I finally set it down. Not with rage. Not with regret. Just with resolve. Because there comes a moment, after all the storms, the evidence, the late nights staring matches with the ceiling, when you realize peace isn't something you wait for. It's something you walk into when you're ready. And I was ready. Not to forget, but to be free. It was a Sunday morning. I stood barefoot in the kitchen, pouring hot coffee into a thick ceramic mug. The kind Lena never liked. Said it was too heavy. The sun spilled across the countertop. Quiet. Warm. There were no more energy crystals in the windowsill. No affirmations taped to the fridge. The house had stopped pretending. It was just a house now. Mine. I stepped outside, sat on the back porch, and listened to the neighborhood wake up. A dog barked in the distance. A sprinkler clicked on. The trees rustled with new leaves. And I breathed. Not because anything profound had changed, but because I could. Because I wasn't bracing for the next lie, the next excuse, the next soft smile with sharp edges underneath. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was honest. I hadn't spoken to her since the store. No texts. No emails. No notes tucked under the door. And I didn't expect any. People who run from their truth rarely look back. Sometimes they move to new cities. Sometimes they just disappear inside themselves. But they don't apologize. They justify. They rewrite the story in their heads until they're the ones who were wronged. Until the truth becomes too inconvenient to hold. I let her go with that truth. I didn't chase her with anger. Didn't beg her to explain. Didn't need her to say my name again. Because I wasn't holding on anymore. I was letting go, not for her. For me. A few weeks later, someone sent me a flyer for a wellness retreat in another state. Different name. Different branding. But the language was the same. I recognized the tone. It was Lena. She'd resurfaced. Trying again. Starting over. Rewriting her light. I didn't feel anything. Just nodded. That's what people like her do. They repurpose pain into poetry. They reframe damage as growth. And maybe, someday, she'll believe her own version of it. But I didn't need to fact-check it anymore. That wasn't my role now. I was done being her audience. Done being the quiet man in the wings, while she performed clarity and connection for the crowd. I stood up, walked inside, and opened the drawer in the hallway. The one with the box. I pulled it out, held it for a moment, then slid it into a storage bin, taped it shut, carried it out to the garage. I didn't throw it away. The past doesn't need to be erased, just archived, so you can live without it whispering from the shelf. Later that night, I cooked dinner for myself. Real food, fresh herbs, clean flavors. I turned on music I hadn't listened to in years. Not because it reminded me of anything, but because it didn't. It was mine. Every light in the house felt softer. Every room felt more spacious. I wasn't filling silence anymore. I was living inside it. And it felt good. Not euphoric. Not cinematic. Just true. And after all of this, after the surveillance, the evidence, the folder, the kiss, the hearing, the messages, the disappearance, the ending, truth is all I'd ever really wanted. Not vengeance. Not drama. Just truth. And now I had it. It didn't shout. It didn't scream. It didn't announce itself with fireworks. It just stayed. Clear. Quiet. Unshakable. Like the morning air after rain. Like a locked door that no longer needs guarding. Like a name you no longer whisper. Like peace you don't have to prove to anyone. That's the real ending. No finale. No credits. No dramatic fade to black. Just stillness. And the sound of your own breath, finally free. The end.